contest. Like to welcome you all to the photo contest, and I'd like to congratulate everyone who entered our contest this year. I'd also like to thank Walt and his folks who put the contest together, and also our judges, Jerry Jelinek, Jim Retzel, and Dave Longfellow. Just a couple of things to share before we get on the contest. We are resuming our holiday party this year on December 14th in person. Invitations went out to members today, and if you're not a member of the Photo Society, go ahead and join us. We're all good people. We come from good families, so what the heck, why aren't you a member? This is a members only event, and so we're looking forward to that on December 14th. We also have a photo walk in progress through the 28th of November. That's at the Oak Grove picnic area in Brecksville. And we're working, your committee's working on stuff for 2023, the photo walks, programs, and all that good stuff. But I'll just be quiet now and turn it over to Walt so we can get to the contest. Walt?
Good evening, everyone, and also congratulations to the winners. Just a few comments, and then I'll turn it over to the judges. As part of the Society's educational mission, the judges will be discussing and critiquing the photos of the winners, which helps us all learn more about what we're doing. And we are, as in prior years, we'll be, we've judged in 3 categories, which is wildlife, macro or close-up, landscape, which could be anywhere, and Cuyahoga Valley National Park is a category, so anything to do with the park there. There are prizes in each category for 3rd place, 2nd place, 1st place, and honorable mention. The winners will receive a highly valued certificate and also a gift card from Pixel Connection in order to buy some photo goodies. 1st place, it's $100, 2nd, $50, 3rd, $25. We also have a Tim Thomas Award for Best of Show, which will be $200. And just to say a couple of things about our judges, Jerry and Dave will be speaking this evening. Unfortunately, Jim Retzel's tied up and won't be able to join us. Just a few brief thoughts about the judges. Jerry Jelenek's been part of the Society for a long time. He's a great nature photographer, of course, focusing on the Cuyahoga Valley. He's a great teacher. He conducts our photo walks and the critique sessions that follow them. He's also judged for other contests and taught photography. And what I was unaware of till I looked at this, he also teaches vintage popular music at Tri-C and hosts a radio program on Northeast Ohio's big band station, WKHR. So I thought that was interesting. Jim Retzel, who most of us know, is a well-known professional nature photographer from the local area. He's published a number of books focusing on his bird photography. He's a retired teacher from the Hudson school system where he taught photography, and it's a great value he provides us with education and other resources. Dave says he's been a photographer most of his life, as many of us have, beginning with a Brownie box camera. He enjoys all sorts of photography. He's been a past president of the Society and has spoken at various points in time. So we've got some great judges tonight, and I'm going to turn it over to them to discuss the winners in each category, and hopefully the slides will follow accordingly. And I'll just add a few brief comments at the end. So go ahead, judges.
Thanks, Walt, and thanks, Bruce, for introducing us. And we're looking forward to presenting all of the images. One of the things we always like to comment on is everybody who submits images, we value a great deal, because you are the heart of what makes the Photo Society successful, is your participation in the photo contest and the photo walks, in the monthly meetings, and the upcoming fun party is all part of what keeps the Photo Society moving forward. So everyone who contributes is a winner in our books. Unfortunately, because of the contest, we have to kind of narrow down the images to those which kind of stand out from the rest, but they're all good images, and we appreciate everyone's participation in the photo contest and everyone viewing it. So the way we're going to do this is there's 4 categories, and I'm going to lead the discussion on 2 of the categories. Dave's going to lead the discussion on the other 2 categories. So we'll hop right into it in the Cuyahoga Valley National Park category to start out. And this is the first image up as an honorable mention to VJ, Sunrise at Hale Farm. And what we liked about this was, first of all, the mood that's being portrayed here. It's the transition between summer and fall. You got the fall foliage there. You've got the colors in the trees, the colors in the sky, and then that misty mood that you can kind of see in the background all makes this a good shot. What we would have liked to have seen is maybe a little bit less of the cloud brightness, maybe even cropping it down a little bit to kind of bring more weight, visual weight, to the barns and the scene in the ground, where right now kind of half and half, we have half sky and half of the ground. And we'd like to maybe have seen a little bit more balance of having more of the ground and the buildings in the composition. Anything you want to add to that, Dave?
Yeah, I really enjoy the overall mood of the scene, getting out there at that early time of the morning. You know, the foreground is doesn't have a lot of features in it, but that bright green, I think, perks up the overall image kind of nicely. From a composition standpoint, this bit of the tree over here kind of poking in is a little problematic for me. So, you know, I might have tried to, you know, get out in this field and maybe, you know, move around a little bit and try to either get more of the tree in or get it all out or something like that.
Okay, we'll move on. The next one is an honorable mention for Brian Wilson's image, Winter Snacks. And what we really liked about this was just getting a beaver shot. I've never gotten one. All the times I've been out, I've never gotten a beaver other than when it's swimming around, maybe by Beaver Marsh or some of the other wetland areas that I've been to. So actually finding one that's out and gnawing away at the little tree stem, and then that mood of the atmosphere of that winter scene is really, really nice. A couple things that kind of stood out that it got an honorable mention, didn't get up quite as high, is the handling, which is really difficult, of the exposure on this, where the snow down in the lower portion of that is really bright. It's almost blown out. It is blown out. And so there's not as much texture there. So the eye really wants to go that snow, and we want the eye more to be centered around the beaver itself. But the way that you framed it in the environment, yeah, it'd be nice if it was less cluttered environment, but just to get the shot is quite a bit of an accomplishment just by itself. So good for you, Brian, for being out there and getting that shot. Any comments you want to add, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, a nice job on the exposure of the fur there. I mean, you can see all the nice detail. You can tell the beaver's been in the water recently, but sort of halfway drying out and stuff like that. You know, in an ideal world, it'd be nice to be able to pick up the eye a little more clearly, just because that's such a emotional impact to have good eye contact on that. But again, congratulations on just getting the shot. And I do like that sort of diagonally striped background all the way in the background. That's very pleasing.
Okay, we're going to move on now to third place. This is Jack Perry's Everett Covered Bridge, one of the iconic landscape architectural features that we have here in the national park. And you've been out there on a real nice day. As far as it's a soft light, even though it's somewhat direct, it's definitely diffused, which really helps this scene. There's really only two places to photograph the Everett Covered Bridge. You have this location that you're at, and then on the other side of the bridge too, you can go down that creek a little bit and get a little bit of atmosphere there. And the reflection, love the reflection, because it just kind of echoes what's on that bright red bridge. You've got the telephone lines or the electrical lines. There's not much you can do about that. They're there, and you spend way too much time trying to get those things out of images. And really, with the photo contest, we really don't want too much manipulation as far as cloning. So you've done a nice job with that. The frame is very good. You got some textured sky that gives it some atmosphere. And for the Everett Covered Bridge, I think it's a nice representation of that.
Yeah, it's a real nice time of the year to be there. I think the colors of all the foliage, the browns and the oranges and yellows complement the bridge really nicely. And then, as Jerry said, you came on a day with a nice sky where there's some interest in that cloud pattern without it being solid blue or solid white. So that was really nice.
Okay, now second place, we have Bill Courier's image of Blue Hen Falls, one of the another iconic landscape scenes. And I think most of us, if not all of us, have been down there in the creek and got this shot. I think the combination of the water flow that Bill got on this particular day, along with the black and white rendering of the image, is really effective. You've got that silky water that's right at your feet, right in the lower portion of the image, leads you right through the falls itself. You've got quite a bit of volume of water coming over the falls. A lot of times in the summer, that can almost be bone dry. So to get there, which I think is a summer or at least a late summer shot, is really nice to be able to get that kind of atmosphere. And the black and white treatment then really makes us look at the form, the texture, the lines, and all those elements that make it visually very, very pleasing on the eye.
Yeah, I think I agree that the black and white treatment works really well here. One of the things for those of you that have been there and have photographed this, you don't have to worry about what to do with that big orange splotch of minerals that comes out, up in sort of this area. The black and white sort of takes care of that, which is really nice. It's a very long exposure, so there's not a lot of definition in, the water's very, very smooth, but all of the texture up here and the rocks, really holds your interest and holds the eye very nicely. So I think that works real nicely.
Okay, and our first place winner in the category of Cuyahoga Valley National Park is Tom Bognar's Mama's Ducks. And when this is one of the few images that Jim, Dave, and I, as we were judging it, this one just stood out away from everything else that's in the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. First of all, to find the Merganser family, to find a large Merganser family is a bonus. And then to actually find them on that log where you get so many different interpretations of those little ones. And I mean, just starting from left to right, you've got some sleeping. You get to see the feet of a couple of them. The one that's snuggled up under Mama, and a couple which are yawning on the right, and then the ever attentive mom herself, kind of overlooking all the dangers that might come to those little ones over the next few weeks as they grow up rapidly. But we just love this shot. It is such a well done, the exposure, the focus, the subject matter, it really stood out away from the rest of the category to give it the first place prize. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, really agree with everything Jerry said. Really like the image, and it's just fun to sort of work your way down the line and look at all the different sort of expressions on the little ducklings that are probably, you know, a couple of days old. They're probably not very old at all. And mama in such an alert state there, looking out for all the chicks is really nice.
Okay, we're gonna move on, and Dave's gonna take the lead on landscape.
All right. A lot of nice entries in the landscape category, and we'll start off with Vicki Wertz, Morning in Cascade Valley. This is a really interesting photo. The way I look at it, I mean, there's just a lot going on. There's a lot of texture. There's a lot of different forms here, and yet it all sort of feels like it all works together. It all feels rather calm for something with so many different features in the photo. You know, one of the things that really helps a tremendous amount is that mist and fog that separates the sort of the main subject trees from the background and that sort of thing. But there's beautiful texture, a really nice color palette that feels sort of subdued, yet all sort of has that feeling that everything is covered in the morning's dew and everything. I think it works really nicely. You know, in terms of things that I think might be worked a little bit. To me, the far right side of the image doesn't contribute as much as the rest of the image does. It's you know, there's sort of some more bare looking trees there and things like that. A little more definition on the sort of the sticks in the vegetation at the foreground. So I might think about making this more like a 4x5 or something like that might remove that and keep your eye from kind of going to those strong forms along the right side.
Yeah, I think Dave said all the major points. The atmosphere of that is very soothing. The textures are very soft, and obviously that mist, and it's going to be fun to watch how that Cascade Valley Park progresses as it goes away from being the golf course and becomes more natural area over the next few years. So it's a great place to go visit really any time of year. It's going to be fun to watch that develop over the years.
So thank you, Vicki. The next one is another quite calm image and really achieves it in quite a different way. Here you've got quite a lot of the image that is you know, is affected by the very long exposure here. The clouds are very soft. All of the texture has been sort of averaged out in the lakeside here. But again, the overall effect is very calming and works nicely, I think. You know, for me, the things that I would look at, you know, I would probably play around with the color balance of this just a little bit and see where it goes. It just feels a little cyan to me, but without having the raw file to play with, you know, and we certainly weren't trying to go photo edit any of these images, but that's one thing I would look at. So, Jerry?
Yeah, and I like the idea of the really super long exposure. So you get that whole smooth of the lake that's coming on to the shoreline there. That strong diagonal, the shoreline kind of leading us back toward the pre-dawn, or I'm not sure if it's a sunrise. So it's a pre-dawn light that's coming up over the horizon, works well. And that was the biggest complaint that David mentioned that we had with this, is the color balance seems just a little bit off. And so on something like that, you've got a good composition overall. The focus is good. The way that you've composed this is good, but we feel that the the colors are just a little bit on the bluish side. So something to work on.
Another honorable mention comes from Bill Courier. This is image titled Hyatt Lane in Great Smokies, I believe. This is an IR image, and I think the combination of IR black and white, it really works well with this image. It really helps simplify the picture quite a bit to have it in black and white. And I think it you know, this sort of tunnel through the trees with the nice repeating pattern of the fence post going through there, I think works really nicely, very inviting. Again, it expresses the mood of the early morning very well, with all the mist there, and with sort of a semi high key-ish feel to the photo. Really has that feeling that you're there right after the sun has come up over the horizon. In terms of things that you know, might be worked a little bit on this, you know, the black and white's been your friend in terms of some of the highlights here. Some of the highlights are pretty bright. I kind of experimented a little bit with pulling down the whites a little bit, and I kind of liked it a bit there, kind of bringing back some of those really, really bright areas, particularly in the vegetation, sort of in this area here, and that sort of thing. Bill or Jerry?
Yep, and I agree with Dave on all the comments. The use of the rhythm in that fence and those, the way it goes right through the scene there is real nice. The exposure at points we definitely thought was a little bit on the bright side, a little bit too blown out. I think that could have been brought down just a little bit. And also, I'm not sure how much time that you had there at the location. If you could have gotten some people or something on the road itself to act as kind of an interest point, that would have helped it too. With the long kind of empty road down there, we kind of wanted just a little bit more interest to kind of draw our eye to something of visual interest there.
All right, moving on to our third place award winner, Mike Silvestro, Ellicala Falls, down in Blackwater Falls State Park in West Virginia. This is a nice expression of that falls. The atmosphere here is again an important part of the image, I think, even though it's fairly subtle. But as you get back toward the main falls and back toward the trees and the bridge there, it's a little softer. You can tell that there's a little mist and there's a little mood there that I think works very nicely. And then the contrast is stronger as you come into the foreground there. I like the shutter speed. I like having some texture in that foreground water, so it's has a little extra interest for me on that. And you know, in this scene, you have to sort of make a decision on what you're going to do about the bridge. You know, sometimes you want to sort of exclude that hand of man, but I think Mike has done it very well. I think that bridge has sort of aged into the scene where it looks like a more natural part of the scene, even though it's a man-made structure up there. So I think that works pretty well.
And another thing I really liked about this is when you're at Ellicala Falls, it's so easy to go really close to the falls and kind of get the whole frame of just that waterfall. What Mike's done here is he's moved back, not gotten that kind of cookie cutter shot that all of us who've been there probably have gone at one time or another and said, I want to look at this as a little bigger landscape shot, and to find this one section in the flow of the creek that's coming out of the falls is really well done. It's well composed, and it would be easy to kind of look past that and want to go a little bit closer to the falls. So the falls is an element, but really that whole texture and flow is as much the subject as anything. So it's well done. Thanks, Mike.
Second place in the landscape category goes to Bob Davis, Dogwood in Fall Attire. Probably not hard to see why this caught our attention. You know, that explosion of color is really hard to miss, but those colors you know, go together beautifully. Jerry was talking about seeing this tree a week or so earlier, and it was mostly all red, and that would certainly be dramatic. But I think having that contrast between the deep red leaves and the yellow leaves, I think is particularly effective for me on this. So it's a shot that really grabs your attention. And then, you know, once you looked at that explosion of color, you start paying attention to the form of the tree itself, and there's some nice repeating sort of angles, diagonals, some going you know, sort of toward the top right corner, some sort of going up and to the left, but it's a nicely interesting tree, and the vantage point really allows you to spend some time with your eye looking around that tree, and that works well.
A couple other things. When Bob uses this kind of crop, it's something we would call like a panoramic type of crop. What it does is it's telling you as the viewer that this whole scene from left to right is really important. And I think it's really, really well done. It's got a very soft feel to it, to the texture of that goldenrod that's to the left there, the texture of the orange and the reds on the left, and the softer texture on the right of just this greenish and yellow in the tree itself. And then you have that anchor of the actual tree trunk to help give it weight to the scene, really acts as a nice contrast to all these softer tones. And the way that you use that panoramic is very effective on bringing your eye to those softer tones with that contrast of the tree trunk. Really well done.
Oops. Then first place in the landscape category goes to Forest and Fog, presented by Janine Hobby. Thank you, Janine. You know, a sort of a classic shot. You got these strong diagonals of the trees going up the mountainside, and then just a really nice mixture of trees and fog. Gives it a lot of depth, gives a lot of things to kind of wander around and look at all the details in this. And I think it's a classic shot that just works really, really well. You know, it's nicely exposed, and just a really strong, although, you know, in some ways a bit of an abstract composition here, but I think Janine's done a really nice job of deciding what's in and what's out of this composition.
One of the things when I see an image like this that becomes really, really effective is I want to be there. I want to take that shot. I don't have a shot like that. And that is really, really well done to, first of all, be there in the atmosphere, and then get there when there's that fog coming up there. And the use of the diagonals and the fog and the contrasting is just really stunning. Like I said, I want to be there to get that shot. And that's a really effective way of using it.
It's a good compliment.
Yep.
All right, now we move to the macro or close-up category. And first honorable mention up is Mike Silvestro, hummingbird moth. This is obviously taken with very high shutter speed because you've got really beautiful clarity on that wing, so you can see all that structure. It's really sharp. You can see the flower through the wing structure, which is really nice. Very good background. It's out of focus, but you know that this hummingbird moth is in a whole area of this chicory, and the strong diagonal of the plant being visited by the hummingbird moth just works really nicely from a compositional point of view. In a perfect world, maybe a little more something where you could see the eyes a little bit more would be lovely, but the compensation for that really is being able to see that wing structure so clearly and so well defined.
Yeah, and the strong use of the diagonal there kind of leads the eye through that whole scene. Then you have the hummingbird moth. And as Dave mentioned, the exposure on that is really fast to be able to see right through the membrane that's on their wings. And like Dave said, the biggest nit that we had is we're seeing the back end. We want to see more of the business end of the front with the eyes and that proboscis and stuff like that. We're nitpicking. We really are, because it's pretty cool. So well done, Mike.
Next one up is VJ's Dewy Purple Dead Nettle, another honorable mention in this strong category. Again, this is early in the morning because you've got dew all over this. This is a plant with very hairy leaves, and all those little hairs attract a little spot of dew, a little drop of dew, and then every once in a while you've got larger drops, which sort of break up the pattern, which is really nice. The color is nice on this. It seems very true to the plant. You get that little tinge of purple on the leaves, and then you have the purple blossoms. For me, one of the really interesting parts of this is the open bloom that's in this area here. Just a really interesting looking bloom with all the little spots inside there and things like that. In terms of what would be nice if in a perfect world, it might be nice to find one where there are a few more of those blooms open, because it'd be nice to feature a few more of those open blooms in terms of the overall shot.
I think Dave's hit all the high points. The one other thing I wanted to add, it's a really nice interpretation using focus stacking that has a focus stack feel to it. I'm not sure how many images are in there, but the depth that you're getting and the detail that you're getting through all those leaves is really well done. And it's just a nice shot that's very pleasing to the eye.
Next up, honorable mention to David Burkhardt, Dreamweaver. And there's a real arresting head scratcher kind of shot that got our attention, definitely. Like I say, it's very arresting. If you kind of think about it too much, you start trying to figure out what's going on here. You've got this spider that seems to be suspended on a little one little strand of web with nothing to support it, which is kind of an interesting sort of thing. And then the spider itself glowing sort of fluorescent green, is very striking. And it's one of those things where probably after some photo walk, I'd like to sit down with David and talk to him about how this all came together in this image.
was the thing on this, because it jumps out at you. I mean, when you have that glowing green spider that's so sharply in focus, it really jumps out. And the three of us, we talked about this quite a bit. We couldn't figure out exactly how it was being lit, and all the support strands that are there somehow, but we're not seeing them. So we got to talk sometime to figure out more how this was actually done. But what you've done here and presented it really is effective. We're just wondering a little bit more about it. So at some point in the future, we're going to talk, Dave, about that.
So thank you, David. Appreciate you putting this one in. Third place in this category goes to Joe Chase, image called Last Leaf. It's very simple image, but very effective. I mean, obviously you've got all this snow around here, but there's a lot of interest in that snow. There's a lot of texture. You can see, you know, all of that texture throughout, and the different shadows and brightnesses in that snow. Really effective. I mean, really feels like some snow that is thawed and frozen a time or two, and that sort of thing. Then you start looking at the leaf, and the lighting on the leaf is very nice and very effective. You've got some lighting that just picks up the ribs in the back half of the leaf, which you know, really adds to the texture there, and then gives you a sense of the form of the leaf, you know, with more highlights along the front half of it there. But nice, simple image, but really nicely effective, Joe.
And what I like about this is this would be a scene that I'm going to say 99% of the time, 99% of us are going to walk by this scene and not photograph it. And Joe decided to stop and work this a little bit, because this took a little bit of time, I'm guessing, to be able to get that composition just right, to get the combination of the texture in the snow, the leaf placement, and the way that the light is coming, you know, and angling and highlighting it. It's really well composed. It's a classic composition, and good for you for seeing it, Joe, and thank you for sharing it with us.
Second place in this category goes to Mike Silvestro, Pandora Sphinx Moth. And, you know, first of all, Mike, congratulations on finding this one. This is not one that you can just walk out to a field every Saturday morning and find one of these. These aren't real common. So extra special marks on this one for finding it and getting a good picture of it. So that's really excellent. You know, all the important bits are good and well in focus. Don't know if this was a single shot or a stacked image. Doesn't really matter. The result is what matters, and everything that needs to be in focus is really nice and sharp. You know, the balance of exposure between the bright white spots and the rest of the image works real nicely. Just wonder if it had been possible to walk around the other side and get a shot with a little bit more of the mouth or eyes not being hid by the tip of the leaf. But you know, this is one that is a nice adder to anybody's catalog, to just have a good example of this caterpillar.
I agree with Dave. This one, another one that I say to myself, I want to be there. I want to get this shot, because that's just a gorgeous caterpillar with those patterns, and you have nailed it as far as getting all that detail off the body, even on the leaf. And that was the first thing that Dave and I mentioned, is we want to go to the other side. We want to see what was there, to see if there was more visual information of the face there to get that. But what you've done is really, really well done. So thanks for sharing that, Mike.
Vicki Ward comes home with a first place prize in this category with this beautiful rendition of a milkweed. There's a lot of milkweeds around. I love to photograph milkweeds. I know personally that photographing it is one thing, but you have to find the right one to photograph. And Vicky's done just an outstanding job, I think, of finding the right one. The whole composition here just works beautifully. Just the distribution of these seeds and the fluffiness of all these seeds. It's clear that this is opened up fairly recently. It's never been rained on. It's never probably had a foggy day or a dew, because there's just nothing in terms of the little plumes on those seeds that's clumped together or anything like that. And then having found it, I think she just did an outstanding job of executing the shot. I love the background. I think it works beautifully. There's just enough texture back there to keep some interest there, but not be distracting. The exposure on the seeds themselves sometimes can be quite tricky. That white, of the little plumes is very reflective, tends to, get blown out and just become a big mass of white, but there's great texture throughout there. And yet the seeds, you can see all the detail in the dark browns of the seeds as well. Everything is beautifully in focus on the pod as well, from the very tip at the top, all the way down through the sort of the loop where it connects to the stem. So just a really pleasing, well executed image, and a great job of looking over a field and finding really the one that she wanted to photograph.
Yep, I agree with Dave 100%. Everything on this just bespeaks of great craftsmanship in developing and seeing this image and then being able to execute it. And there's a lot of thought that went into getting this just right. And Vicky, you've done a great job on nailing it. So congratulations, and thanks for sharing that with us. Okay, this is the fourth category, the wildlife category. Typically, if Jim Retzel were here, he would be kind of the person we would defer to on this, but we're going to do our best to go through this and give you our comments. Okay, the first honorable mention goes to Bill Currier with Osprey with Catch. And what we liked about this was, first of all, getting a bird in flight. That, number one, is really hard to do, at least for us mere mortals, right, Dave? So you've got the bird in flight, you've nailed that, you've got that eye, that one eye that we can see, and then dangling off of that, looks like a catfish that it's caught out of a river or something like that, taking it back to the nest. And really, really well done on being able to nail that. A couple of things that we thought could be improved upon. And again, this gets to be nitpicking because we've got such a neat composition. The background, some of the background gets to be a little bit cluttered. There's not a whole lot you can do about that because you're shooting this thing as it's flying with as fast a camera shutter speed, and just keep following the bird. It would be nice if we had a little bit more of the head of the bird, possibly even getting two eyes if that was at all possible. But when it's flying away, there's not much else you can do. So you've framed it real well to let the bird fly through the scene, and we start nitpicking then on ways to improve it. And it's a really nice shot. Thanks, Bill.
Yeah, congratulations, Bill. Great get on this. The fish head really puts it over the top for me. Being able to see all those sort of whiskers coming off of the fish head, it's just beautifully turned right there. The Osprey was very accommodating on that. All the feathered detail that you've got all the way across from wingtip to wingtip is just works beautifully on this.
Okay, we'll go move on to the next honorable mention, The Last Look by David Burkhart. And how many of us want to be that fish at this point in time? Not too many of us. And we loved that expression of that eye of the fish as it's going, uh-oh, this is not going to end well. But you've nailed that. We love the little droplets of water that are coming off of the fish, and the way that you've composed the head to kind of use that implied S curve in the neck going through the head. The biggest thing that we would have actually liked to have seen would be a little bit more room. You've got those head feathers that we'd like to see all of the head feathers, because that's an important part really of the heron, especially in the breeding season when the males have those feathers coming off the back of their head. And then just have a little bit more room. It feels just a little bit tight as far as the way that it's just really compressed onto the whole head of the heron itself. But boy, that's a neat place to be, and except if you were the fish, of course. Dave, any comments?
Yeah, I don't know that I have anything to add. I think you've pretty much said everything that I would have said on this image. So
Thanks, Dave. Okay, and the next honorable mention is the red morph screech owl by James Ruddick. And first of all, going out and finding during the winter season or the early spring season when we have don't have the leaf cover is neat to find. Is going ahead and finding that red morph screech owl in the tree and being able to photograph that. And then what you've done is kind of framing it with the whole environment is pretty cool. We felt that the red that we're getting on the out of focus leaves might be a little bit much, because what it's doing actually is it's kind of drawing our eye away from the red morph screech owl. And based on the title, that's what the subject is that owl. But as far as the visual weight of the owl, it's a very small portion of the overall scene. So we would have liked to have seen maybe a little bit more of the owl itself, getting a little bit tighter. It gets rid of some of the distracting branches that we have around it, and also could minimize the red of those out of focus leaves. You could also, on those ones, it would be within the context of the rules to maybe just tone down the vibrance of those and make them a little bit more subdued. And that would allow us to go toward the owl a little bit more. Any comments, Dave?
yeah, you've captured some really nice light on the head of the owl there. You've got a strong catch light in the eye, having the dark surround of the hole in the sycamore, frame and set off the face of the owl is very effective there. So I think that helps add some weight to the owl portion of this image, even if it's not a big percentage of the total image. But it's always that tension that you have between finding it, how close does your lens allow you to get, how much environment would you like to portray, how much, and this is a nice way to show how the bird just works so well camouflage wise in with the splotches of the darker portions of the bark and things like that. So nicely done.
Thanks, James. And we have one more honorable mention in this category, and this is nest building, Larry Lohman. When I first saw this, I knew it wasn't Indigo Lake because of the puffin that we've got there. So you've got the puffin, and from what I understand, I've never seen a puffin myself, but according to Dave and to Jim, these birds take a little bit of time to be able to kind of get up to speed on their takeoff. So that's what we're seeing. But once they get going, I guess they're very energetic with a lot of wing flapping and very fast flyers. And what you've captured here is really cool. Is it's getting some of the material that's getting off of the lake or wherever it's getting that nesting material, taking it back to the nest and getting just that little moment of that last foot, you know, just helping drive it a little bit forward, a little bit more is really, really cool. It's really neat. I mean, it's well done. It's one of the things I would like to see sometimes in my life, is to actually see puffins in the wild, which would be pretty cool. It's a little bit flat as far as the overall kind of composure. It's kind of the nature of the environment that we're looking at, and also the whole surrounding area. That was my biggest complaint on it. You've composed it really well. It flows through the shot really nice. You've got the eye sharply in focus, and it's just a cool shot.
Yeah, I've been on some boats, going out to see puffins, and I know, I know the difficulty in getting this shot, and there's a lot of them. These little birds are little miniature footballs with teeny tiny leaves, and the only way they can stay in the air is to fly really fast. So they're little bullets that go around, and they're not easy to photograph. At the same time, you've got a bird that's very bright white and dark black, and you've handled the exposure on this well, so I can see detail both in the blacks and in the bright whites, which is excellent. So kudos for getting that. And as Jerry said, these guys run along the water to help them get out of the water after they've been diving for things like this nesting material, and to get that behavior, with a little splash of the water behind them is really excellent.
And we move on to third place, and we have Interrupted by Tom Bognar, and we have the hummingbird that's on a thistle. And when I first saw this, I said, who's getting interrupted? Is it the bee that was interrupted by the hummingbird, or the hummingbird that's being interrupted by the bee? We may never know, but it's still a pretty cool interpretation of having that thistle with the hummingbird going in there and the bee either flying by or what have you, and all that detail that we're getting on the hummingbird's belly, especially, and those tail feathers is really, really cool. The light helps kind of accentuate that a little bit, and the way that it's composed, where it's right in the center of the frame, there's no mistaking. First of all, it's the sharpest portion of the image which is in focus, and it's right in the center. You're telling the viewer this is the most important part of the image, and it really works well the way that you've composed that. We were wondering a little bit about maybe some of the background. It's what it is. I mean, in an ideal world, it'd be a nice smooth background as opposed to having that fern there on the left-hand side. But with all the positive things that you've got in there, it really works well. So thanks for sharing that, Tom.
Yeah, I'm a slightly different opinion on the background. I kind of like the background and the sort of the repetition of the pattern between the top of the fern and the wing of the hummingbird. I think that it just plays nicely to me. And then I love the color contrast between the purple thistle and the chartreuse green of the fern. So we have, we don't always agree on these things, but you've got a really high marks for uniqueness in terms of the pose here of the hummingbird, and you get to see the detail in the tail and the underside of the hummingbird, which is kind of unique. At the same time, the head is just really nice and sharp and focused, which it just needs to be, and you managed to do that real well.
And we move on to second place, another image by Tom, and this one is called Not an Angel. Obviously a great horned owl flying, and boy, I've seen great horned owls in the wild before, but never just totally isolated like that with the sky above that. So first of all, being in the right place at the right time is pretty incredible. Having the camera ready to go is really incredible. And then being able to get the image, all that combined makes this for a really, really neat shot, and all that detail that you get of the feathers the underside of the wings, the belly, the feet, and those claws, and then that determined look that's on the owl's face as it's flying wherever it's going to go. So really good for you for getting this and for sharing it, because that's a really cool shot.
Yeah, it's really special. You know, you got a nice catch light in the eye. You know, and as Jerry said, all of that beautiful feather detail on the underside of the bird is not an automatic. I mean, a lot of times these kind of situations, it's clearly there was some sun around on this. You have the potential for getting a lot of shadowing under there and making it very difficult to bring out all that detail. But you managed to do that, and it doesn't look like you had to stand in your head. You might have had to stand in your head image processing wise to do it, but it doesn't have that feel to it, which is really good.
And we move on to our winner. The first place winner in the wildlife category goes to Larry Lohman and red-necked grebe. And this one, all three of us, I think of the images in the entire photo contest. This was one of our top 2 or 3 images that we saw. This one is just outstanding. First of all, we love that S-curve that's getting implied by the wake of this grebe going through the water there. The way the light is catching the grebe, and you get some of that light that's coming off of the lake and being reflected onto the face there. You've got the mouth open, which always gives a little bit of energy. You've nailed the eye. You've got the catch light in the eye, all that wing detail, and boy, there's so many ways to look at this image, and all of them are really good, because you can look at the wake, you can look at the head, you can look at the feathers, and it's just an enjoyable image to look at. And this is another one I wish I was there and could have captured even close to what you've got here, Larry. So you've done an excellent job, a well-earned first place on this one.
Yeah, for me, the thing that really puts it over the top is the background, and I don't normally say that because you've executed the subject beautifully well too, but the color contrast between you know, catching the blue of the sky in the disturbed water, and then the green of you know, the foliage around the body of water. And everything else is really really sets it apart and makes quite a difference, and beautifully frames the subject here. And then you've just left just the right amount of room on the bottom to pick up essentially all of the reflection of the bird. And as Jerry said, you know, the technical execution on focus and exposure on the subject is excellent.
Okay, so that wraps up our 4 categories, but we have one more image left. It's the Tim Thomas Award. And before we get to that, Tim Thomas was one of the founding members of the Cuyahoga Valley Photo Society. I never actually got a chance to meet him. He was retired from the Photo Society by the time that I got on board. Jim Retzel knew him very well and spoke very highly of Tim Thomas as a person and also as a photographer. So this has been the annual award for the best of show, I think, since the show's been going on. So we'll go to the final image. And the grand prize winner of the Tim Thomas Award is Rich Patrick and Smoky Mountain Barred Owl. And what was interesting when we were judging this one came out, it was the only image we had that we all voted as perfect image, as the best image in the contest. So all the other judging that we were doing was kind of based around the individual categories, but this one just jumps out at us because you have this absolutely beautiful bird. You've got the catch light, the way it's framed, both horizontally and vertically, is just outstanding. We've got the real soft feeling of fall there with the colors of the oranges and the yellows, and that bird looking through the scene. It's just a gorgeous shot. Another one that I wish I was there with you, Rich, when you got that, because I would have treasured whatever I could have even come close to getting what you've got. Just an outstanding image, Rich, and congratulations. Dave?
Yeah, just a beautiful combination of softness and detail. You know, it has the feeling of being in the woods and sort of that filtered soft light, and yet you've got enough light on the bird's eyes to animate the view of the bird. You know, catch lights in both eyes. The bird feels very, very present, if you will, in the image, and then beautiful framing around it with the limbs and the orange leaves. Just works beautifully. I think the image, we probably don't need to talk about it a whole lot, because I think the image really speaks for itself very eloquently.
So we want to thank, on behalf of Jim Retzel, we want to thank all of the people who participated. It's always tough when we sit down to go through these images and kind of rank them from first, you know, to honorable mention and things like that. And everybody who participated, really, we thank you on behalf of the entire Photo Society. And we'll turn this back over to Walt then.
Okay, thanks, guys. And boy, that was really inspiring. And thanks to everybody that entered and to the award winners. And the rest of you think about entering the contest next year. I'd also like to thank the other members of our contest committee, which are Randy Dunn, Marianne Kucera, and Ann Gulbranson. We do all the background work for this. I'd like to thank Pixel Connection. We purchase the gift cards there, but they also give us a very nice discount when we buy those. So when you use them, you might reference that. That would be nice. And then finally, I'd very much like to thank Ann Gulbranson, who's running the Zoom thing tonight, who put all the pictures and slides together and organized everything for the judges, and the spreadsheet that they used, and all the technical stuff that I'd be somewhat clueless about, but makes it look easy. And we appreciate that very much. So with that, we'll wrap it up and go out and do some shooting and have fun. And I will see you later. Good night.
Thank you.